Hello, everybody. This is Chandler from Line of Sight Wargaming. We were recently sent by Bellum Wargames the new Nords versus City States two-player starter box, which is super exciting. I'm already a pretty big Nords player. I was really excited about City States when they were kind of initially announced, and in the end, I think I leaned a little bit more on sticking with my Nords for right now. But I will say that the City States is an absolutely beautiful model line. Super cool look. Really, really excited about them. I've got a local who's picking them up, so I'm going to be able to see them on the tabletop before long. Hopefully I'll be able to report on that. I do want to say that this is kind of being companioned alongside a article that will be posted on Line of Sight Wargaming. If you check out the description, we're going to have a link to that down there. That's going to be a little bit more of a thorough me actually opening the box, taking very, very close pictures, detailing everything. But I just wanted to take a minute to kind of show off what they've got here, because Parabellum has, as far as companies in the miniature gaming industry, has impressed me just time and time again, right? The rules, even when I initially looked at them, which was very close to the release of Wadroon, the rules were obviously already very, very good. And I like a lot of the modernizations they had come up with, but what's really surprised me is both their customer service, the way that they deal with their community, as well as their model, the production quality for what you're actually getting has just skyrocketed. It goes up and up and up every single release that they do. So I'm always excited to get a new thing and even just look at a new thing from them, because it is so, it's always just leaps and bounds beyond what the last thing was. So, I'm not going to be really showing off most of the Nord stuff that's in this box. The Bow Chosen are new, but I'm going to do them, I'm going to handle them a little bit separately, because I have a box of Bow Chosen that I got for myself as well on my own. And I want to showcase and talk about them a little bit, because they're pretty cool. But the main new things in this is going to be, of course, the City States, new models, and then the new Coninger. For Nords, who I want to show off a little bit. So we're going to take a look at what we got here. So first off, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's actually in the box. So in the box, you have, for Nord's side, you have a Mountain Jotnar, a regiment of Huskarls, a regiment of Bow Chosen, and then the new Coninger model. Largely older stuff, which it's actually kind of an interesting showcase of how far their model quality has come, because you still have these fairly old Nord models in this kit, and the difference is palpable. That's not to say that the old models are bad. They're very reasonable, but they just, the new stuff is just leaps and bounds beyond. I would love to see them, not calling anybody out, I would love to see them, though, go back and do a big refresh of a lot of the older sculpts. It'd be amazing. Probably not a great use of their time, but it'd be awesome to do. Anyway, let's talk about what's in here for the City States half. So you have, and I'm gonna look at my little piece of paper here, because I don't freaking remember. These are all kind of brand new. But you have two regiments of what I believe to be a multi-kit, which is the Hoplites and the, I think it's Phalangites. That's what it's called. Hoplites being kind of the spear and shield guys, and Phalangites being just pure, just big old pikes, which are very cool. I have constructed a few of the Hoplites here. The other thing is you have the Minotaurs, which are also they're a multi-kit. You can build two different things out of them, which is the Haspists and the Thyrians, with the Thyrians being the just big two-hand weapon variants, and the Haspists being more of a defensive option. And then you have the Polemarch, who is the character that's going to be coming with those. You have two regiments and a brute unit, and the Nords come with two regiments and a monster unit, which is exciting. The monster for City States is, or the monsters are very, very cool, but they are not, I believe they're not coming with this box, basically. So you get a number of sprues. One thing that kind of amused me in the stuff I got sent was that they actually put in there, and it's such a Parabellum thing to do. They put in there that there was an apology for some of the sprues not being up to the quality they wanted. Let's see. And all it is there's just these extra bits on the sides of the sprue here. It's the most minor thing on the planet, knocking stuff over. But it just made it, I thought it was funny that they sent an apology for it. They're such a kind company. They really want to make sure that the customer feels like they got their best. But I should note that in that they did mention that it was a short-term issue that they had that they're fixing. So if that's something that bothers you, not a big deal. It's not going to last for very long. It just kind of, I found it funny because Parabellum's just such a nice company. This is one of the sprues for the Minotaurs. You can see I've already kind of cut into it. This is the other one. This is a single brute regiment of Minotaurs. There's 3 of them, of course, in that regiment, and it is a multi-kit, so you can build either these kind of big single-handed weapons, or you can, with the shields, or you can build the big 2-handed weapons. I went ahead and built a couple of I believe they're the Thyrians, because I think they're very cool. You get many sprues. This isn't all of them. There's a couple more. This is the Hoplites and Phalangites. They can be built, again, it's a multi-kit, so you can build them as kind of whichever you want, which is very, very cool. They are really incredible. You can see here, just from anybody who's like spent a long time with sprues, they packed every inch of this thing, right? It is tight. It is, they wasted no space on the sprue whatsoever. Versus, I mean, when you look at some of the older ones, you kind of have there's a lot more kind of empty space on them. So you can see that it's just a little bit less efficient. This is the old Huskarls one. They've really just come a long way. They're really, really beautiful. Let's talk about what else you get in here that isn't models for a second, then I'll show the actual models a little bit more. You of course have, now I apologize, you're going to be slightly blinded by the light here, but this is your instruction manual. One of the things that I was impressed by with the Hoplites and Phalangites in particular is that they are ridiculously easy to assemble. Sometimes with the amount of infantry that you end up building with these big 12 model units, and sometimes multiple of them kind of packed together, is you will start to lose your mind a little bit because they can get quite fiddly and there's a lot of them. But these actually, I mean, I built these 3 without really thinking that hard about it. They go together very, very well. Something they've been doing that's really great is that some of the pieces, especially pieces of the torso, they actually put like a letter on them so that you know which other half of a torso that they go with. Another really fun Parabellum move here, and I apologize, you're going to get some shine here, I'll try not to, is 2 copies of the Last Argument of Kings rulebook. You can tell me if you've seen one. I don't know of any other company that in their 2-player starter set gives you 2 full rulebooks so that both players have one. It's just a fun little touch that you just don't really see all that often. So this is, of course, you can see the big 2 on there. This is for the 2.0 release, which is awesome. So that should be a pretty current rulebook, at least for now. Next thing I'm going to look at is these start playing scenarios. These are cool in that you just have some cool scenarios. They've also got on the back a bunch of them, trying not to shine this directly into your eyeballs. They have a bunch of these QR codes that lead to different aspects of the community that you can check into. This says like stuff about scenarios, has stuff for the Discord, has like stuff for their painting competitions, more about the lore, things like that. Link after link after link, tons of different stuff on there. It's also got these really cool big lore pages, which basically detail out like a character for both the Polemarch and the Coninger that's in here. And then, of course, various scenarios. I won't go through it too much, but a bunch of really cool scenarios in there. They also kind of have like lore associated with them, which I think is a really cool idea. It's a lot of fun. I may, since I've got these, try that out with one of our locals at some point. This is a really cool little, I've seen things kind of like this, but I really like the way that it's laid out. This is essentially a buyer's guide. And what's cool about it is it doesn't just give you one option, it kind of like names different thematic ideas that go with different characters and tells you what kind of units you might go for. So this is what you get set, this is the breakthrough set, this is the phalanx set, this is the hammer and anvil set, right? And the idea being that it's just different options that you could pick up from where you are. And as a Nords player, a lot of these make a lot of sense to me. They're well laid out. It's a really cool idea, just kind of going like, hey, here's like another... here's some more options that you could kind of look into if you want to pick up more stuff going forward, and if you don't have like quick access to advice or anything like that. You've of course got, I haven't opened these yet, but this is just your command cards that you need for everything. It should be, you know, one of everything in the kit. And that's basically all of the excess stuff aside from the models. So let's talk about the models a little bit. So I have assembled just a couple of hoplites, a couple of Minotaur, I believe the Thyrians, a Polemarch, and then the new Coninger. So this right here is the leader model, and I won't be able to get a great focus on it, but this is the leader model of the hoplites. These are extremely cool. One of the things I really like about them, because this is just a cool concept, because the idea with city-states is being this kind of somewhat electropunk version of kind of the Greek warrior aesthetic. So you get really cool things, and it's very hard to show this on my camera, but you get cool things like this guy, and many of them actually have prosthetic arms from the elbow down. You see a lot of prosthesis on these guys, which I think is very, very cool. Another thing that I'm just never going to get on this camera, but if you want to check out the article, it's going to break it down a little. It's going to be able to show it a little better, is the detail on the helmets is absolutely gorgeous. I would love to paint these because they just look like an absolutely great time. There's lots of really cool little details on there, and I think they're going to look very, very cool all packed together onto their bases. This Minotaur in particular stood out to me. This axe is 2/3 the height of a mountain Jotnar. It's very, very large. These Minotaurs are absolutely huge. You look at them even compared to like regular infantry. It's a big chunky model. I would say they're very slightly larger than an Uger, which is pretty cool. These are probably, I think about these for like D&D as well. Incredible Minotaur miniatures. For if you need that for anything. The Polymark is really amazing. Now, I don't always personally love working with the white plastic that they use for their characters, but it's not bad. He went together very, very well. Didn't really have any issues. He's got a really great helmet with this kind of rebreather looking thing on there. Very cool. And again, with the way my light is, this white plastic just absolutely gets washed out. But very, very nice model. He looks fantastic. I love the way that you can actually set him up with his sword going through the... Now, I'm not a military historian. I don't know what this is called, but basically the little gap in the shield there. Very similar to these guys, where it's kind of allowing the spear through. It's very cool. Very well laid out. And I will say, because these... Less so on the Polymark, but on the hoplites... The arm is actually put in by a ball joint, meaning that you can kind of angle the spear and the shield how you want to a certain degree, which makes it a lot easier to get that kind of lined up however you want. The last model, and I think I was a fool and didn't grab my other Conager, but this is the new Conager. I have some pros and cons about this one. I think it's a very cool model. One of the things I really like about him, and it's hard to see here, I'm seeing if I can get an angle where the light's not too ridiculous, but one of the things that's very cool about it is I really like the way that he's holding his sword. I've not really seen a model do this, the kind of thrusting, which is funny because I feel like this sword would be terrible for thrusting, but the kind of prep for thrusting motion that he's doing is very, very good. He's also got a bunch of kind of somewhat pseudo like Icelandic style kind of Norse runes and things like that, as well as what I believe is a Helm of Awe on his belt, which is very, very cool, calling a little bit back to the culture that kind of the Nords are designed around. He is very cool. I do have some pros and cons with him. He's actually very, very slightly shorter than the old Conager, and I do like the detailing on the older one's face, head, hair, things like that a little bit more. I just do like that this one went a little bit more towards some of the cultural aspects that they were playing around with. It's very cool. He does look great. It is a very good mini. I'm a little torn on which one I'm going to use. I can't use both at once, so because of the way the Conager works. Yeah, just as a kind of a final showcase here, I'm going to show off just a little bit of. So this right here is a one of the hoplites versus a Huskarl. The Huskarl is very slightly larger. It's a little hard to tell when I can't lay them, nice and flat on a table or something here, but they end up comparing pretty well in that I think one concern that a lot of games always end up having is scale creep, right? And I think one thing they've done pretty well here is go more for kind of a sleek, smaller look, which I think more fits the aesthetic that they were going for, and make sure that things like the Conager, the Huskarl, stays like kind of a big, thick friend compared to those, because I think that's a little bit kind of how they're designed to be. So they have a little bit of a different look to them. They're very cool, though. The city-state stuff is definitely, like, so far, and I say this every time I get a mini from them, the best kits that they've done. I mean, it's just the work that they've done on these is absolutely fantastic. The Minotaurs are very, very nice. and everything is a joy to assemble. It's all very, very easy. The only tip I would maybe have regarding specifically the Minotaurs is put the arms on before the shoulders. The instructions don't really, they kind of just tell you to put it all on at once, so it doesn't seem like the order matters. The shoulder pads on a couple of them block the arm from going into place properly. So just make sure you get that arm in there first. That was a mistake I made, and I had to do a little bit of like slight modification to get it to fit in there. Nothing you can see, but I had to like cut away some plastic to make that happen. But overall, really, really gorgeous. Super awesome pieces from Parabellum. I'm always excited to see new stuff from them. It's going to be really cool to see kind of what the rest of the City States model line looks like, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing them on the table. So yeah, that's about it from me. If you do want to support the stuff that we do here at Line of Sight, you can of course check out our Patreon, patreon.com/LOSwargaming. And if you would like to support us and Parabellum and yourself with cool new minis, you can of course use the code LOS10 on their web store and get 10% off your first order on there. Line of Sight gets a little bit of a kickback from that as a thank you for supporting them. I'm really, really happy to support Parabellum. I would love to, I would do stuff like this even if they weren't working with us like this, because their stuff is just extremely cool. They consistently put out just a better and better product every time I see anything from them. I've had a lot of communication directly with the company, and they've been some of the friendliest, easiest to work with people I have ever spoken to. They're absolutely wonderful. They're a joy to work with. But yeah, that's about it from me. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit. We'll see you guys next time.